Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. We are the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and his good old boys down south. And also, Charlton and Big C Sports are broadcasting from the iHeart Media Network, the #1 media network in the United States, undisputed. And also, I want to say thank you to all you good old boys from Latin America. So, bienvenidos to you. Thank you for listening to Charlton and Big C Sports. Also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course the great country of Canada. Oh, Canada, man! I feel like Donald Trump, Big C. I'm getting so many hate letters from people up in Canada saying, if you don't know the words, quit singing the song, Big C. So I apologize, guys.
You can always tell you got the first two words there.
I got the first two words. I'm doing my best, Canada, okay? And also, of course, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you, the great United States, for following Charlton and Big C Sports. Also want to pay homage to some of our network television brethren, because things that you talked about a month ago, Big C, they're just not bringing it up. So congratulations to you, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
It's just a beautiful day in the southeast, brother. We always love waking up in the morning, hearing the sunshine, knowing that we can always go down the road and find lunch and dinner. We really appreciate Mother Nature for putting a bounty on our table down here on a daily basis. And then we, from the Mother Earth, we get something to wash it down with, little liquid moonshine.
That is so funny.
That's everything out. Just rid the aches in the joints.
Is that what they mean when they say that God is good? When I thought some of my good old Southern friends, they took me down to church, and they were all saying how good God is. And of course, I believe in God, most people do. But when they were saying God is good, I thought it was because they were getting favorite, Big C. But we were on our way home on the back roads. There was a deer or some elk running, and they said, "Oh, God is good." Oh boy, got his shotgun out and made lunch. I just thought, I was kind of in shock, Big C, but everybody has a right to live that way. And speaking of having a right to live the way you want to live, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive it, tell me you want the one that Charlton and Big C was driving. Actually, as Big C was driving, just tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you, but he's the one that's driving it, always finding the mud. Sometimes, Big C, when you got a bicycle, you're a little kid, they always try to find the mud. Is that what you're trying to live your youth again, Big C?
Well, Charlton, we do so many things for the off-road, especially when we're going back to get some of the liquid fuel.
Oh, yeah.
Get back home to keep us warm at night. All the roads are not paved back there. So
yeah.
Hopefully nobody will ever do a mud test and know which area the ride is.
Yeah. That is so funny. I tell you, we talk about so many things in the world of sports and in the world of politics. Just want to touch on the World Series. The first time since 45 that the Cubs have won a World Series game, Big C, winning Game 2 last night 5-1. So 71 years. A lot of people are just so emotional about winning the World Series. Of course, out here in California, we win them like every other year, it seems. But we've had the A's and also the Giants having their run of things, and the 49ers having their run at championships, as well as the Raiders, and then the Sharks getting close last year. So a lot of championships have been won here in California, and just Northern California. But this thing with the Cubs and the love affair, the affinity they have for the Cubs, have you ever seen anything like it, Big C?
Well, we're talking is what a true sports fan is. You're with your team through thick and thin. And those Cubs fans have always been faithful, Johnson, not over the years, but over the decades, over the century. They have been there. Wrigley Field has always been packed. They've kept the historic nature of the facility. They haven't gone for one of these new modern ballparks, Charlton. And I think that's as big a part of the mystique as just being a fan of the Cubs. But, to be in the World Series, to tie up the series last night 1-1, Schwarber did a great job last night getting 2 hits. Driving in 2 runs last night, and all of what was expected by the manager, Joe Madden and Theo Epstein, the GM.
They're amazing.
The knowledge that they have about the game and knowing to make the right moves, and they made the right moves last night to even up the series, Charles.
Well, Big C, when you think about evening that series, and we know you're talking about some of the great pitching, I still like Chapman when it comes to closing. If the Cubs can get a lead, and it seems like whoever gets a lead in this series is going to win. And if you can bring in Chapman, he's really effective if he only has to pitch the ninth. But if you have to go into the 8th, that's going to make it difficult. But the great thing about this game, and maybe what's not so great about it, what I love is that it's the Big C World Series, Big C for the city of Chicago and also the city of Cleveland, as well as Charlton and Big C Sports. And I also want to know that it's great to see games that come down to maybe 5-4 or 3-2, but we've had 2 blowout wins in the first 2 games, Big C. I see it getting a little bit tighter, but you've seen how important it is to get out to a lead in this series, Big C.
Well, it is, Charlton. It's very imperative to get on base and to drive in and run. And you know, you look at the success of the 2 teams, Charlton, in doing that.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, right now we have even more of an issue going on with the World Series. You know, it was very appalling to watch Fox's broadcast of the game last night.
What happened?
Panning around to some images in the stands of people dressed in Native American garb. And if you look at the social issues that go on in America, and the strife been going on about getting teams to remove the Native American image from teams. You've heard a lot of fights against the Washington Redskins and Daniel Snyder about changing the name of the Redskins. You've got a lot of high schools throughout the country that have dropped that image and changed their name, and it's been historical with those schools to carry the names. Even the Stanford Cardinals, which were the Stanford Indians for decades, Charlton, out there in Palo Alto, California, changed their name in homage to that namesake and that native people. You know, this is a people that have been berated and denigrated throughout America, throughout the history of America. Everything has been taken from them, and people saying, well, it's not offensive. No one is asking them whether it's offensive, and there's a lot of them that feel that it is. Yeah. But Charlton, Fox Sports last night, panning around, showing these people dressed in the native garb, war paint, and all that. I understand it's been the team's logo for years. But it's time for change in American equality. I mean, if it's fair to post up a Native American on a logo, then it should be fair to post up anybody. You don't see any team named the white men. You know, in any professional sports. And for the commissioner to be insensitive, saying he's going to look into it. These should be paving issues in all professional sports. There's enough team mascots that you can find without naming a native race as your logo. That's kind of denigrating. And then when Fox, with their insensitivity, you know, making a mock of it, Joe Buck, you know, you would think that he would be a little more intelligent.
You would think so.
About the situation, Charlton. But he's not. He's insensitive because it doesn't affect him. Does he sit up on television and talk about his hair plugs that he has on TV?
No.
That's what he should be paying more attention to, is the hair plugs that he has. It's very obvious that he's bald, and he has hair plucked from other parts of his body stuck on the top of his head. Let him make fun of that instead of a native culture in America, Charlton.
Well, see, Big C, you're a very conscious person, and especially living down in the South. You see that the residue of Jim Crow still exists in our country, and instead of having the chance to celebrate people, sometimes the mainstream culture, if they don't have a lot of interaction with people, they just tend to want to kind of make money, or they're trying to please somebody, and who they're trying to please are the same good old boys that approve of that. And as we talk about that too, we'll get into a little bit of what's going on in the world of the NBA and a little bit of football too. I want to just tie it into something about leadership, which I think that Charlton and Big C Sports, not only are we a great sports program, Big C, we provide leadership in the fact that we are prescient enough to talk about things before they happen. And this goes into the thing about Donald Trump and grabbing women by the crotch. And people say, well, that was a long time ago. Well, there are people who are incarcerated right now for things they did a long time ago. And as far as a lot of women coming out, it's not a long time ago. Now, for people who think it's not a big deal, Big C, one of the greatest universities in the history of the United States is called Harvard University. Well, Harvard University, the great university in Boston or in Cambridge, they have condemned lewd emails from the soccer team. Now, this is the great Harvard University. They condemned a sexually explicit email that was circulated among his 2012 men's soccer team, okay? And the reason they were doing this, Big C, is these boys, these good old boys, most of them Caucasian, there's a cultural thing going on there, just right with me here. They were talking about the attractiveness and made lewd references to members of the opposite sex, members of the women's soccer team, women that went to college at Harvard to get a good education, to play sports, and to better their lives. Now, not only are they dealing with the same type of good old boy behavior that Donald Trump thinks is okay, it's really called sexual assault, These guys were dumb enough to put it in an email to assault women sexually, berating them based on how they look, Big C. It's the culture of sexism that has been perpetuated against women that sometimes is so deep, even women don't matter when it happens, Big C. Your thoughts on that again?
Well, you know, society has problems in America, Charlton, whether it's just mainstream society, whether it's sports. The thing that people are getting away with and feel that some people can be comfortable with. You know, the only thing that I like about what Donald Trump says is when you're going to go back to the good old days. The only thing that's good about the good old days was family value, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you think about American culture some 40, 50 years ago, it was all about family value, which we've gotten away from now. Everybody's chasing the almighty dollar in every way. People don't spend time with each other. When you see kids fighting instructors in school, you know, people jumping on coaches at pee-wee football games and baseball games, parents coming out of the stands. What happened to the family value of America? Sports is a galvanizing thing, but as you talked about, here's a sports team at Harvard, one of the most prestigious academic universities in America.
Yeah.
Where this type of situation was going on. You know, it's as bad as the rape case at Stanford last year when the swimmer assaulted the girl who was passed out and only got 6 months and only had to serve 3 months.
Serve 3 months on that,
What is going on with society when you sit there and you look at the privileged part of society that, you know, if you're Anglo, your crime is not as harsh if you're someone else of another nationality, Charlton, and you tend to be viewed by a judge and a jury of your peers, your true peers. Show me a trial of an African-American man, Charlton, or a Hispanic man that has a jury of 12 of their own peers.
Yeah.
They don't get it. So there's no justice in America. So when these people do it, especially at Harvard, Charlton, when they berate and denigrate women like they're just like with Josh Brown, the former kicker of the New York Giants, Charlton, the NFL office, Roger Goodell, and everybody else within the Brown organization knew about Brown. But he was a white kicker. He wasn't a black running back like Adrian Rice. He wasn't a black running back like Adrian Peterson. Ray Rice wasn't Adrian Peterson. He wasn't a black defensive end like Greg Hardy, Charlton. He wasn't a black defensive end like Smith out there and Alden Smith in San Francisco. Or Ricky James Westwell, black defensive lineman. For some reason, these white guys get a pass. I understand societal differences, and I understand societal impropriety as far as percentage of race representation. But when you're in the same job force, Charlton, and you're working on the same auspices and rules and regulations, how do you get a pass from a sports team in an organization when other guys lose their job and you're covered up by the league's office, Charlton?
Well, Big C, that is so powerful that you say that. And I'll bring it up that Charlton and Big C Sports, we're two African-American men, Big C, but we do more and say more about race and protecting women and protecting men in our society than any other sports company out there, whether it's Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC, it doesn't matter.
Well, I want to step in on it. You admitted that we're African American men. But we're not racist men. What we talk about is what everybody see in society every day. But the guys on the network, they say, hey, I can't mention that because I want to keep my job. It's not being racist to recognize what's wrong in America. It's like if you witness sexual assault, it's sexual assault, Charlton. If you witness a breaking and entering, it's a breaking and entering, Charlton. If you witness a battery, it's not about color, Charlton. It's about reality. It's about telling the truth and keeping it real. And that's all we try to do. If we witness or know what's wrong in society, in sports, and we mention that, don't say that we're badgering somebody because then it makes you, and I'm going to make this statement, it makes you the racist because it makes you uncomfortable about something that you're comfortable with.
Well, and anybody...
When you see equality and injustice going on anywhere, whether it's in sports, whether it's at home, whether it's at school, you should mention it. This no snitch crap that I've heard over the years.
Oh, that's garbage.
I'm a snitch. I'm a straight up snitch. I'm going to tell you.
Well, I tell you, when it comes to that, Big Z, everything we talked about, it was verified in the Kerner report. But I still want to keep pounding this horn until we keep women safe and keep all people safe. Watch the documentary 13th. Is eye-opening for everyone who calls themselves an American. Also, speaking of eye-opening, this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? I'm telling you, where there's $100 million, or I think it's up to $180 million now for the Powerball coming up over the weekend.
You got to get $2 together, Charlton. Not one. You got to get $2 together. That's where you make the mistake. You got to play two.
Well, I had an attitude. I actually tore the ticket. I tore the money in half and said, "Can I buy 2 tickets?" She said, "No, it doesn't work that way, Big C." So I'm learning my way. But also, I want to get into a little bit of the world of sports and basketball here, downtown Sacramento, outside of the Golden One Center. A gorgeous place for a basketball game right here by the downtown mall. And they have right now the San Antonio Spurs coming in town. And what a tough way to start your season. I know the Kings, they look a lot better this year than they did last year. They got their first win of the season down in the desert. They beat up on the San Antonio, actually the Phoenix Suns, 113-94. So I know DeMarcus Cousins had a game-high 24 points. But not only that, they just have a great atmosphere in downtown Sacramento. I want to thank personally Mayor Kevin Johnson that I've met several times. He played for the Suns in the NBA. He went to Cal Berkeley Big C. He's led the African American Coalition of Mayors nationwide. He's also had his own type of scrutiny and dealing with scandal in his career, but it doesn't stop him, Big C. Here's a guy that tried what we're trying to do. He put people together that wanted to create an industry in Sacramento, in the state capital. Now they have a brand new state-of-the-art arena. I think it's really galvanized downtown, not only downtown Sacramento, but the whole Central Valley, Big C. And we have that type of development going on all over the country. So on Charlton and Big C Sports, we want to thank Mayor Kevin Johnson, who's prescient enough to say if you find a way to build it, the people will come. Big C, your thoughts on other big arenas being built all over the country before we get into the NBA?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the arenas, these huge mega sports arenas that are being, constructed around the country, what it does is it creates jobs.
Yeah.
You already have an arena standing, but it creates more jobs because you think about the construction jobs and all the jobs that are going to be affiliated with this facility.
Yeah.
You're creating a more comfortable and inviting environment for the fans, more airspace, more viewing areas, better sight lines. This is what it's all about for the comfort of the fan, Charlton. And these teams have done a marvelous job over the past couple of decades building a few facilities. I saw where San Diego was trying to get a new stadium put on the ballot out there in California, and hopefully they get one because they need one. Jack Murphy, as well as the Oakland Coliseum, both of those facilities need to replace a couple of the oldest stadiums in the NFL, Charlton. But when you look at the economic impact that sports has on every community that there is, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars into economies with the fanfare, the ticket travel, the fans coming in, the hotels, the concessions, and every other little thing that goes on, that's involved in a sporting event, Charlton. You look at the World Series, think about how much revenue that's going to generate for both of those big cities.
Millions of dollars.
Chicago and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of dollars. You think of I think of all the sports apparel in Chicago after they beat the Dodgers to make it to the World Series.
Yeah.
Within hours, everything that had Cubs on it was sold in the city of Chicago. Everything, Charlton. And even over the next week, everything that came in went out the door as fast as it came in. You had these starving fans that want a piece of that history in their lifetime. Other cities, you spoke about the championships in California that have been kind of prevalent over the decades. Charlton teams winning in Oakland, Los Angeles, San Francisco, all over the place. But they haven't had that in the Midwest. Cleveland was 54 years before they got a basketball championship, and now you have the Indians on the precipice of possibly winning the World Series. You have to really appreciate the fan involvement and the fan appreciation in sports. And that's what it's all about. When you see a game, Charlton, you don't hear about violence.
No.
You hear about people with a commonality, a common goal, Charlton. They're cheering for their teams. They can be in a bar. They can be in a stupor. But they still have that same common life. That love for their local team, Charlton.
And the respect.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And that's what sports does. And only if society could mirror sports as far as its respect for each other.
Yeah.
Just think how great a country, we're in a great country of America anyway.
Yeah.
But just think how much greater our country could be if everyone would emulate a sports fan in everyday life, Charlton.
Well, Big C, I think what we do is so important because, sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to that. And on Charlton and Big C Sports, you'll find us talking about sports. We'll talk even about race. We'll talk about some politics. It's just real talk. And I think what we've been doing, I've seen it emulated so many times on network TV or radio, whether it's ESPN or Fox or ABC Sports. I just really appreciate the fact that we're onto something, and I give you a lot of credit for that, Big C. Touching on some of the NBA games last night, Big C, the second game's going on. It was Detroit and the Raptors 109, the Pistons 91. It was the Pacers 130 and the Mavericks 121. The Miami Heat beat the Magic 108-96, and the Celtics over the Nets 122-117. A lot more games going on, but Davis had a great performance for New Orleans, Big C. Your thought on Davis being a young player, but is so dominant? It kind of looked a lot like, what we saw back in the day when Will Chamberlain played the game, Big C.
Well, no, Charlton, just as early as a couple of weeks ago, everybody was questioning would Anthony Davis be able to make it through the season.
Yeah.
The center for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah.
And he came out last night and had a historical night, Charlton. 50 points in the opening game. The most points ever scored by a player in the opening game of an NBA game, Charlton, of the season.
Yeah.
17 rebounds. He had a triple-double, plus he had assists and block shots.
Yeah.
He had 4 assists and 5 block shots. So he almost had a 5 and 5 there. You think about the dominance, and the team lost. So you think about this player, how good he is, and how good he can be. He has constantly improved every year that he's been in the NBA. He was on the Olympic team, Charlton, this last summer down in Rio.
Yeah.
Was part of that gold medal winning team. But this is just a player who's gotten better and better. I know there's been a lot of talk around the league about building super teams.
Yeah.
You look at Golden State, you look at what Miami had done a couple of years ago. You look what a few other teams have tried to do, building these super teams. The Lakers were the first to build a super team, and along with the Celtics, back in the 80s, and people didn't realize what they were doing. And now a couple other teams are trying to do that same thing. But there's so many great individual players, and Anthony Davis runs under the radar, and everybody's talked about preseason potential league MVP.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis right now is the league MVP. If you look at his performance last night, Charles,
you go by one game.
Unparalleled in the history of the league.
Yeah, you go by one game, but definitely. And again, we run off with a few more scores. Charlotte 107, Milwaukee 96, Memphis 102, Minnesota 98. I think Minnesota's going to be really good this year. Denver 107, New Orleans 102. We just talked about that. Oklahoma City in Westbrook, he's going to be a star this year all by himself, Big C. 103-97 over Philadelphia. And then Sacramento beat up Phoenix. Houston and the Lakers got the game going on last night as well. I'm telling you, tonight we have some good games on tap. Washington at Atlanta, Boston at Chicago, San Antonio here, and Sacramento at the Golden One Center. I haven't seen anyone touch that rabbit though, Big C. We got a beautiful rabbit that's made of glass and is pink and purple, and it's cost I think $8 million. And they have a sign again that says, don't touch the glass, Big C. So hopefully none of the good old boys would avoid that sign and go touch that bunny rabbit.
Charlton, what we call rabbits down here is called roadkill.
I thought about that.
And he's only one hop away from the top. So when he comes out, we'll show him how to live or not live.
Well, I understand. It's a beautiful Golden One Center. It's just in the heart of downtown Sacramento, just a few blocks from the state capitol. If you ever get the chance to come through Sacramento, if you can afford a ticket, Big C, get them while they're hot. If you wait about 10 games into the season, if the Kings are the way they've been in the past, maybe those ticket prices will drop a little bit, Big C. But speaking of ticket prices, this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. Also, we are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. If you're looking for work, we're trying to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to put people back to work. And tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And Big C, when you talk about prices, everybody should make the amount of money they're able to get. I don't care who you are. If you're getting paid, whether you're a movie star or an actor or an athlete or a coach, I think you've earned every penny of it, Big C. That's what democracy is. But Jim Harbaugh hasn't won a national championship yet, but he's already catapulted to the highest paid contract in college football, over $9 million, and I think he's worth every penny of it, not because he's won a national championship, but because he got them to pay him, Big C. Your thoughts on that? And they can't pay the players any money because they don't have enough money going around, if you still believe that, Big C. Your thoughts on Harbaugh?
Well, Charlton, when you think about all these broke universities that, paying these coaches these multi-million-dollar contracts, but kudos to Jim Harbaugh. He's made his way through the ranks of college football, even professional football. And what he's done, though, Charlton, the reason why he's been awarded that, he's brought pride back to the maize and blue. Yeah. When you think about how downtrodden that program has been for the decade, and all of a sudden Jim Harbaugh comes in and he revitalized that program. You got to realize Michigan was about 8 points away last year from winning 10 games.
Yeah. They were.
So you think about a couple of mishaps late in a couple games, and now he has them as the number 2 ranked team in the country in just a year and a half. So you think about how he's gone in the programs, University of San Diego, University of Stanford, the San Francisco 49ers, and now the University of Michigan. When you talk about one of the top coaches out there in the game, Charlton, on any level,
yeah,
Jim Harbaugh always has to come into that conversation, Charlton. And you think about, he started during the offseason with this recruiting war, going into the South, going in having camps, and having all of college football coaches upset at him.
Isn't that something?
But you look at how his players look at him and responded.
Yeah.
Because the coach cared. You think about his interactions. He's more of a team guy than he is a coach. When you look at him going out playing catch, throwing 7-on-7 with his receivers, where other coaches are sitting back being CEOs, he's become personal.
Well, but Big C,
players have responded admirably to it.
Well, Big C, if they pay me $9 million, I'll go out and play catch with the kids too, Big C. Just so if they gave one an airplane,
if they gave you $9, you'd be able to buy $9.
I know, huh? That's true, Big C. And he also saves a lot of money on Uber tickets because the University of Michigan that can't pay their athletes, they actually get them a chartered plane, Big C, to go down to Florida and recruit the athletes. I just think that's incredible. Also, we talk so much about Coach Shaw, David Shaw at the University of Stanford, African-American head coach. At this time last year, he was the 8th highest paid coach in the Pac-12 conference, Big C, number 8. But I think because you wrote that story so many times, I don't know if he has an agent or not, but David Shaw right now is one of the highest paid coaches in the Pac-12 conference now, Big C. When you look at David Shaw, his salary is right up around $4,067,000, Big C. That's a lot from jumping down to about being number 8th paid. Now he's, I think, one of the top 1 or 2 as far as salary-wise in the Pac-12. So, Big C, you got David Shaw pay raise, Big C. Did he send you any cutback for that? Are you his agent too, Big C?
Well, I just hope to get a couple of tickets for games out east here, Charles.
Yeah.
At least give me a sideline pass. Let me hang out with some of the big honking players and Charles. But when you just think about sports as a whole, the constant amount of economics in sports, Charlton, on the college and professional level.
Yeah.
There is so much generation of revenue, and not just to the coaches and to the universities, but to the local areas, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
There's an infusion of cash into every community when there's a local game. You think about the local vendors, the hotels, the restaurants, the stores, Charlton. Everyone benefits from athletic events. Athletics is so economically galvanizing to everyone. Even when you step down to the local high school games, Charlton, you think about the parking in the local areas, the concessions at those local high school stadiums, Charlton, the ticket prices that benefit those local high schools programs. Sports does that to people. This is something that Americans will make a way to pay for.
Well, Big
and
C,
even worldwide, you find a way to pay for sports. Sometimes people can't pay their rent.
Yeah.
But if you want to be in a game bad enough, you'll let the rent slide for a week.
Well, there are people right now, Big C, talking about how they are selling things to go to see the Cubs play in the World Series. They haven't been there since 1954. I know 1945 actually, but there are people selling a lot just to travel across the country. I do love the story where you see families getting together again and old friends from different schools where they saw each other in high school or college and they grew up Cubs fans. Even if they can't get into Wrigley Field, they can at least go to a sports bar in Chicago and have a great time. But one of the greatest cities in America for sports.
Think about how many house and family parties that you're having with Cleveland and Chicago in the World Series. You got some inclement weather back there in the Midwest this time of the year. But think about how many people are going to be together and savor this. Where, hopefully this will drive down the crime rate in Chicago because so many people will be paying attention to the Cubs during the World Series. But when you think about it, and you talk about the price and people selling, Game 5 of the World Series, the third game that's going to be played in Chicago in this series, one fan for 4 tickets, Charles, paid $78,100 on StubHub. Think about it. For one game, 4 seats, $78,400. Does this game or does this series mean something to people? Yes.
And see,
that's what sports will do to you.
And I think he's going to be so upset, Big C, when he realizes out of all that money that you actually get in for free, Big C. So I don't know if that's a good bargain after all, Big C. It just depends on who you know, right, Big C, from what I hear?
Well, it's called press fans, so.
Okay, I understand. That's funny. And also, the good old boy down in your neck of the woods, I know your favorite coaches is Nick Saban, but I kind of feel bad for saying Nick. He only makes $6,933,000. Only $6 million for Nick Saban.
Saying under $7 million. It sounds better. $7 million. It sounds better.
Okay, I feel bad for St. Nick. I'm sure he'll be asking for a pay raise if Alabama wins the national championship again this season, Big C. But as we come to a close, I want to say this final segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. You can tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports. We're also trying to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help put people back to work. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports for that. Also, by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org. Contact Cynthia Evans of CY NN Entertainment. She's the best in the country when it comes to promotions. Also, Big C, just to touch on a few things down the path of the NFL. We know that NBA basketball is great, but the first couple of weeks you really can't get into it. I mean, it's always a nice buzz, but it really makes a lot more sense after you played about 30 games, Big C. That's just my opinion. And then, of course, NHL starting out too. But I want to touch a little bit on the world of football. When you look at the rankings of some of the defenses out there, we saw what Denver did against the great Brock Osweiler. And again, I give you enough credit because you were saying that he was a bust all along, even though he's not returning that $72 million. He doesn't care what you think. But you look at defenses, and the Denver Broncos, they're rated the number 3 defense in the league. Offensively, they only rank 26. So that shows you that defense can win championships. They're right there in the hunt for the AFC West. But the number 1 defense in the league, the Minnesota Vikings, they only have 1 loss. But Big C, the trouble there is their offense is only rated number 31st. And you think about that, how could they win a Super Bowl with the number 1 defense, but the offense being almost last in the league, Big C?
Well, it comes down to defense. With Charlton, when you look at the past couple of Super Bowls, what has been the difference in the game?
Yeah.
It's been the defense. I mean, Denver last year was very pedestrian in the Super Bowl offensively. I think Peyton Manning completed 15 passes.
Yeah.
That's not enough for an offense to win a game. So the defense has to step up. They scored the first touchdown of the game defensively. Denver did last year in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And if you look at every team that has won the Super Bowl in the past decade, every one of them has scored defensively. I remember several years ago with the Cardinals and the Steelers when James Harrison returned an interception 100 yards right before the half.
Yeah.
So, when you bring a defense out on the field, Charlton, for some reason late in the season, it stymies an offense. Great defenses have a way of making plays, Charlton. They'll go along. All of a sudden, it's called opportunistic. And they will come up with a big play. You always have a player that has a knack for doing that. And you look at the great teams, even the New England Patriots, they always have a defensive player that has a knack for making a play. There's no superstars on the team, per se, as far as how guys are ranked in NFL.
Yeah.
But they have players that play cohesively with each other. And when you look around, you think about great defensive players of the past, and you'll always single out one guy. It's like when the Chicago Bears 1985 defense. It was just Bears.
Yeah.
That's all it was. They had a team full of all pros, but they played so well and cohesively together, they didn't care who made the play. They had one of the greatest linebacking cores of all time. They just made plays. The secondary would knock anybody out.
Yeah.
And they didn't care.
Yeah.
That was back in the days when the NFL didn't mandate that you had to be a sissy to play.
Yeah, I understand. Hey, Lynn Swan resists when you say that. USC's playing a Thursday night game for the first time since 1938. They're playing the University of California, Berkeley. The Golden State matchup is what they're calling it. Northern and Southern California playing at the Coliseum tonight. But when you think about, too, Big C, all the great things that happen in the world of sports, and you talk about defenses and offenses, the 49ers right now, they're rated pretty much near the bottom when it comes to their offensive production. They simply have no line play. They don't have their running back play. I think Colin Kaepernick, when he accounts for 83% of their offense last week, in the defense, they just can't seem to find themselves. But on the other side of the coin,
Charlton, when you talk about the Niners defense, in their last 3 games, they've given up 138 points in 3 games. 138 points in 3 games. How are you going to beat anybody? You can blame any quarterback. You can blame Gabbert. You can blame Kaepernick. You can bring in Christian Ponder, the third-string quarterback. It's going to be the same product when you go on the field because your defense can't stop anything.
Well,
it's like pouring water through a sieve and saying, "Come on through."
Well,
it's not going to stop.
Yeah, that's funny. funny. I think what they're also looking at doing if Chip Kelly gets out of Dodge, they're thinking about hiring Donald Trump. Because here's a guy, no matter if he's losing or not, he can visit you that he's winning, Big C. So they might have someone, at least he can mesmerize people. But the bad thing...
Tell everybody it wasn't his team's fault.
Yeah.
It was other team's fault. They cheated. That's how they beat us. They cheated.
Well, you know he can't play offensive line because he'd grab all the defenders by the crotch, Big C. And the football players wouldn't stand for that, Big C. They're a little bit tougher than those teenage girls. Yeah. That's funny. And so the last thing I want to just get your thought on, Big C, you know, it's raining here in California. We have a great game tonight, appearance-wise, with the San Antonio Spurs coming in town to the Golden One Center. The Sacramento Kings opening the doors downtown, gorgeous arena. All over the NBA tonight, we have some great matchups happening. But Big C, I just want to get your thought on the field. The baseball game is going to be played tomorrow in Chicago Wrigley Field. Hopefully there's no rain. I just think that's a great environment. It's a shame that Harry Carey couldn't be there to see this after so many years of being just the greatest announcer, especially in Cubs history, Big C. So many fans, whether it's Chicago or whether it's Cleveland. This is what baseball is all about. This is why grandparents take their grandkids to a game. This is what makes the game great. It comes down to September and October that you can appreciate baseball, Big C. And right now, even if you're not a Cubs fan, there are people in California, they're so jazzed about seeing this World Series just because of the history of it, Big C. Does it resonate to you good old boys down south, or is it just Alabama football, Big C?
So, Charlton, when you think about the Cubs, they have the most iconic theme song in the history of sports.
Yeah.
Take Me Out to the Ball Game. That song is resonated in the 7th inning.
I digress, Big C, but I'm going to try it. I heard Harry Carey do it, so you good old boys don't get mad at me, okay? Now, take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the... Okay, I'm sorry, Big C. See, Canada, it's nothing against you, Canada. Go ahead.
That brings chills to everybody when you after the ball game in the 7th inning stretch.
Yeah.
And you think about the optics of that game, Charlton, when they start singing that song in the 7th inning of the first game of the World Series, it's going to electrify all America with emotion.
Yeah.
But that's what sports is. When you have fanfare and you have teamfare that appreciates the fans that are there. Yeah. And you know the Cubs are going to go out and give their all after this long history. The greatest part about this, Charlton, is that they don't have players on their team trying to relive history.
Yeah.
They have players on their team that this is all new for them.
Yeah.
Very young organization when you think about the Cubs. The history of them, they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
But this team has been around a very short time when you think about the general manager and the manager. 4 to 5 years old, that's all this organization is right now, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they're performing like a bunch of kids.
Well,
they're just going out there having fun, won 108 games in the World Series, in the regular season.
Yeah.
Now they're tied 1-1 in the World Series, Charlton. This is a beautiful and wonderful time for professional baseball to have two deserving organizations in there and deserving fan bases watching the game with the whole United States pulling for them, Charlton.
I agree with that very much, Big C. Also, want to just touch a little bit on the National Hockey League tonight. We have Buffalo playing Minnesota. The Pittsburgh is actually playing the New York Islanders. Philadelphia and Arizona will tip it off. And then Florida is playing Toronto. Montreal is playing Tampa Bay. You have St. Louis against Detroit. Winnipeg versus Dallas. San Jose will play Columbus. And Los Angeles will play Nashville, Big C. We talked about the game at Southern California. USC's favorite by 16 over Cal Berkeley. Appalachian State, they're a 5.5-point favorite over Georgia Southern. And Virginia Tech, they're 3.5 favorite over Pittsburgh. Akron's favorite over Buffalo by 17.5, and Toledo favorite by 16 over Ohio. But Big C, I just want to close out the show and doing some of the things that we always do, because we talk about no tolerance for domestic violence, and we know that Maris coming out with the Giants. He's saying he didn't know, he wish he would have known more. But wherever you get your information from, I always appreciate it very much, because I want to make sure that everybody feels safe. We saw what happened at the great Harvard University, where they have this Donald Trump culture, where women are just a status symbol. If you look at any woman that would be with Donald Trump, it has to be because he has money. It can't be for any other reason, Big C. That's just my opinion. But when you have that culture of that male chauvinist pig mentality, I want people to see that it's not just him in the election. This is affecting women that go to college campuses. They're being rated by men, okay? Men are deciding if a woman's pretty enough to deal with, and they do it socially, which is also cyberbullying. But when you have a guy who leads the Republican Party, whether it's Donald Trump or whether you have the good old boy Giuliani out of New York and or Gingrich, they're all good old boys. They act like they don't care, that they think, I think it was Gingrich who wanted an open marriage. Who would really want to lay it down with him? I don't understand that. I mean, I know some women are generous, but come on. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But these guys with their power and their white skin privilege, I think they should be held accountable for what they say, just like we are, Big C, and what they do. Don't touch women by the crotch, Donald Trump. I think that's despicable. But now you have guys at Harvard, they're doing the same kind of thing, Big C. Your thoughts as we close it out, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it's always an egregious act to do something violent or negative towards a woman. And I think as America, that's a big part of what goes on in our society. When we hear it in the music, we see it in actions as far as men denigrating out there and speaking lowly of women. You know, things have changed in society over the past 40, 50 years, Charlton.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been all for the good. Economics have grown, but societal, whims have changed, Charlton. Just overall respect of individuals in society and the cultures.
Yeah.
There's always going to be differences. I don't care where you live in the world. But the one thing that there's a commonality of are women, Charlton.
Yeah.
And women should always be respected
and feel safe
and appreciated. I mean, when I think about my mother and my sisters, my nieces, and I love them dearly. And it would hurt me in any kind of way, Charlton, to see someone go after them in the ways that we've seen and heard that these men on TV saying it's locker room talk is acceptable. It's not. I spent many years of my life, Charlton, in a locker room. Over 40 years I've spent in locker rooms. And, I never had that as a player, as a coach, as a broadcaster. Didn't have to hear that, Charlton.
Yeah.
But I hear it more in the public light than what I hear anywhere else. And people saying that it's locker room banter, yet athletes don't recognize it.
Yeah.
It's all the non-athletes that recognize that it's locker room talk. So how are you going to denigrate an athletic system saying this is how athletes act, Charlton? You can't. You can't say that athletes act like that was the politicians that are saying it in society.
Well, I think you're right, Big C. Newt Gingrich actually went after Megyn Kelly on Fox. I don't know what it is about Newt Gingrich and Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani, all these guys that have just kind of taken advantage of their power and taken advantage of power over women, and Elliot Spitzer and all those good old boys. But it was Newt Gingrich that was telling her that she has a problem with sex just because she don't want to be grabbed by the crotch. And there's also a lady, and I love politics because it's just like sports. It's competitive. There's a lady named Kellyanne, I think is her name, and she works for the Trump administration, or not the administration, but she's part of his political party. And no matter what he does, she agrees with it. I just hope that no one grabs her daughter by the crotch and says, "It's okay, mommy, because you defended it, Big C." You know what I'm saying?
The contract for him. I guarantee you after the campaign he won't pay it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny, Big C. Well, speaking of that, Big C, I love what we do on Charlton and Big C Sports. We love real talk. We love not being a sycophant to people. And I want to tell you, we always want to say there's no excuse for domestic violence. You should never, ever, ever hit a woman. I don't care how rich you are, Donald Trump. And you shouldn't grab women by the crotch unless they consent to it, Donald Trump. Giuliani, you good old boys. I love sports because it connects everybody, Big C. We don't have to always like what we all say, but we can each all agree to disagree. But what we can agree is no room for domestic violence. Any woman in trouble, just call 911. Don't try to do it by yourself. And if you're a man out there, keep our women safe every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide. Follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And as we always like to tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.